In this video, I would like to explain the concept of personal property that has evolved over the years. And this new concept of personal property is very critical for understanding secure transactions. Now, historically, personal property was distinguished from real property. And in fact, personal property was called movable property. And we have this binary distinction between immovable property, which was real property, and movable property, which was, personal property. But personal property historically could also be understood as tangible property, property that your five senses can comprehend. So the law of secure transactions uses the concept of goods to capture the historical concept of property. So these goods could either be natural or they could be manufactured goods. They could be crops, they could be fruits, they could be industrial products, they could be anything that human beings manufacture, and they are tangible, they are possessible. Now, the new concept of property goes beyond the physical and goes beyond the tangibility of the property. So we have a new concept of property which is intangible or which is not subject to possession. For example, intellectual property is a new concept of property. Intellectual property consisting of patents, trademarks, and copyrights. These rights cannot be possessed, but these rights constitute a thriving concept of new property. Investment property, which is also a new concept of property. Investment property could be tangible or it could be intangible. Now remember, paper has been, as I've discussed in other videos, paper has done great service to humanity. And a lot of abstract rights were preserved on paper by writing. So a certificate of security, for example, was a tangible property and is tangible property, which captures the right to a share in a company. But increasingly, investment property is becoming non-tangible, and it is becoming sort of accounting. It is becoming numerical. You have 100 shares of IBM in your account maintained at a brokerage house. In addition to that, we have several concepts of payment rights which were historically preserved on paper. For example, a promissory note where somebody promises to pay a fixed amount. This obligation was preserved on paper, and if that paper was negotiable, it was called a negotiable instrument or a promissory note. But then the concept of accounts, which is also a payment right, which arises when you sell goods and services. And even that payment right is known as personal property and is recognized in the law of secure transactions. Then we have chattel paper, which includes a payment right in it. Then we have tort claims. That you are expecting a payment if your tort claim is successfully prosecuted. Then we have payment intangibles, by which you mean that if you give a loan to someone and on interest, and then that person pays you back, so you have a steady stream of income coming to you, and this will be called a payment intangible. So we find that in addition to goods, we have investment property, and we have intellectual property. In addition to these, we have several payment rights which may be preserved on a piece of paper or which may not be preserved on a piece of paper. So all these notions of property are important for understanding secure transactions, because the credit markets use these notions of property or these concepts of property in order to give loans. So you can use the classical goods, you can use intellectual property, you can use investment property or stocks and bonds, and you can use your payment rights, whether they are accounts or whether they are chattel paper rights, or whether they are instruments, or whether they are tort claims or payment intangibles. So all these payment rights are subject to collateralization, and the credit market is open for you to obtain loans on the basis of these rights. In fact, even some contract rights, which may not be payment rights, can be used as collateral in order to obtain loans. So understand that the notion of property has expanded, and the credit market welcomes this expanded notion of property.